While letters are a language's most basic units, it is the syllable through which they begin their weave into elegant patterns. Hello! This episode of the Nahuatl for Aztec Religion series will outline 3 basic rules for learning syllables in the language, with a couple examples from ritual words. We'll also take a special look at the pronunciation of Tlahzolteotl, one of the most important Mesoamerican goddesses from ancient to modern days. Before we get started, a quick note about how I will be writing for this video. When linguists want to break a word down to its syllables, they often separate it by dots. This series uses hyphens instead for convenience. Rule 1. The Nahuatl syllable has one pattern. This notation indicates that the vowel is always required, and the initial and final consonants are optional. A word with a full CVC syllable is tletl, fire. This word, however, has all 4 syllable forms, in teokal, their temple. Rule 2. A side effect of the first rule is that multiple consonants cannot happen at either the start or end of a syllable. Earlier forms of Nahuatl may have allowed this exception, and a possible example is the word for filth, tlahzoli. Centuries ago, it was likely pronounced with 2 consonants in front, so. However, as Nahuatl began to apply the syllable rule across all its words, this separated the consonants to 2 syllables. The glottal stop ending the first, the s starting the second. And also remember rule number 1. Every Nahuatl syllable requires a vowel, so one had to be inserted in front, and this is usually the I, E. Linguists call this rule epenthesis. This I-so root was then adapted into 2 forms, the verb with the inserted I-so-loa, to mistreat, and the noun tlahzoli, refuse or filth, which readily replaced that I with the tla prefix because it was inserted just for grammatic convenience anyway. Rule 3. A word's penult, or second to last syllable, is almost always stressed. Tlahzolteotl means spirit of refuse or filth, whose literal translation is the subject for another video. In the Mexica dialect, the most familiar exception to this rule is when somebody is calling a person by name. If the speaker is female, the final syllable is stressed instead, Tlahzolteotl. If the speaker is male, the stress is on the added suffix e, Tlahzolteotle. This is called the vocative form. And an interesting side note, this e suffix is used the same way in Yucatec Mayan, which suggests that one of these languages may have borrowed the form from the other. Other exceptions to the stress rule are rare, and often to a single or couple words in each dialect. Once you master these 3 basic rules for forming syllables in Nahuatl, you will have already set a cornerstone in your foundation to speaking the language. Now that we have explored the sounds and syllables of Nahuatl, we can begin to form full words. Join us for the next episode about basic examples of the noun.